Hi, welcome to Beyond the Sounds Songwriter Series. I am here today with the lovely Hillary Reynolds, all the way from LA. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well, all things considered. Oh my gosh, if you can hear like a motor, it's noon here. It's
Yeah,
like afternoon, and everybody in LA is just doing all of their yard work all of
nice.
the time. So
Well, I mean, what else is there to do, really? It's the perfect time.
yeah, especially like right now, there's like a leaf blower going right.
It's all right. We'll
Yeah,
work
we might.
with it. So we have so much to talk about.
Yes.
That's okay, no worries. We've got to work with these things. So much to talk about. You've been doing music for a long time, and there is just so much that you've done and that you're doing, which is great. So I want to start like right at the beginning, like growing up. Am I right
Okay.
in saying you come from a pretty musical family? Uh, what was it like growing up in your household?
I mean, it was probably very chaotic. I was kind of like that Disney princess generation where it was like, back to back blockbuster releases of like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Pocahontas and just like all these, and Little Mermaid, of course. But I have vivid memories of just running in circles around my parents' house with a blue book like Belle and just like literally constantly singing. Yeah, and then my parents were kind enough to sort of recognize that I just was obsessed with music, and they got me a piano. And I still actually, I have the piano out here. It's in my music room right now. But
Wow.
like I started taking piano lessons and really just fell in love with classical music and did a lot of like just piano competitions, local competitions and stuff. And I think I did like a concerto competition, and it was just really like it's such a different world than the world I'm living in right now. But I grew up just with a fierce sort of dedication to to learning, and I think from there I joined choirs and um, I joined orchestras. So it's just kind of a mixed bag of music, really. And then my family, of course, just being incredibly musical, only added to that. So only added to that. I actually remember I have like memories of falling asleep in my dad's like velvet lined acoustic guitar case. And I just
Amazing.
like I would just sit in there and then fall asleep as the band would be playing. So I mean, it was just around me all the time.
Yeah, it sounds very comforting. I'd quite like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
were your family, did they listen to a lot of classical music? What kind of music was kind of on in the
Oh,
house, or?
oh my gosh. In the house, it was like, I mean, it was again just a total mixed bag. A lot of Beatles, a lot of Beach Boys, a lot of um, Chicago and Led Zeppelin, Diana Ross, The Supremes, Marvin Gaye. It was just, it was like Motown. It was Simon and Garfunkel. It was like Barry White randomly. I don't know. It was such a weird mixed bag of things, but really fun and eclectic, and really like Carole King too, just like the
Mm.
60s, 70s, and then 80s. I think my mom was like really obsessed with the Pointer Sisters as well. So it was just like a really eclectic bag of stuff. And then I myself in the 90s became then like obscurely obsessed with Leanne Rimes and country music. So it was just like, I don't know, it was just all over the place. And then my grandfather on my dad's side, he actually sang a lot of like Frank Sinatra and did a lot of Frank Sinatra impersonations also. At like just, and he actually had like an agent into gigs like all over the
Oh,
Midwest.
wow.
I know, it was It's crazy. That was like his retirement. It was
Fair enough.
amazing. And so I felt like he'd tuck us into bed, me and my cousins, like tuck us into bed, singing The Way You Look Tonight. And it was just like every gathering really was an opportunity for a concert. So yeah. And then I kind of found songwriting. I found songwriting because I have an aunt, a very, very, one of my closest friends actually. She's a songwriter as well. And I just really, really like admired her and looked up to her for so much. And I think it was when my parents were getting divorced, she was just like, you know, you could write songs. And I remember her giving me a journal for my birthday or something, and it just kind of like cracked a seed and started doing it. So
amazing. Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I do.
How bad was it?
It was called The Man on the Moon. I remember like it was like, the man on the moon smiling at me, clearest smile I ever did see, and his eyes were clear as the stars. The man in the moon, something but he's really miles beyond the sea. Oh, the man on the moon.
I love that you remember. That's so good. How old were you when you wrote that, do you think?
I remember I was on the playground in elementary school, but I can't.
Oh.
I knew how to write, so it had to have been like maybe like, I don't know, post second grade at least. You know, maybe third or fourth. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I mean that's not bad going though for being that young. Like even to be able to rhyme at that age is impressive.
I think. Yeah, I think it was really, I was such a strange kid though. I mean, like I remember I would sit by myself on the side of the school on the pavement with my notebook, and just like nobody would be around me. So like I wasn't necessarily cool by any means.
Well, it's paid off now though, so there we go. Is there a time, like obviously you look back and you think, oh, it was a weird, but is there a time that you kind of realized how much you loved it, and that you wanted to kind of, that was what you wanted to do when you grew up, or did you have kind of completely different plans?
I don't know. I mean, I think I always knew I wanted to exist in the world of music to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
I had auditions for like conservatories and more of the classical music route of things as a path for college and university. But I feel like really what opened my eyes to the path of songwriting being a potential was going to a John Mayer concert when I was like, I think a freshman in high school. And he mentioned that he had written the song Victoria at Berklee. And it was the first time I had ever heard of that. And I was, you know, just this little girl from Wisconsin, middle of nowhere. And so to hear that there was a school that existed with a degree in songwriting was very illuminating. And I just started to kind of dig into it and see if it was something that I could really get into. Because up until that point, even up until senior year of high school, I was in private lessons for piano and viola and voice at this conservatory anyway. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like I could continue down a path I already was familiar with, or I could dive into something completely different and kind of risk, you know, play a little more of a risk game. I'm glad I did it. I really enjoy it. I decided to just audition for Berklee, and I got a scholarship, and I decided to just try it. So, yeah.
And it obviously, kind of yeah, and it obviously like worked out, because that is, am I right in saying that's kind of where you formed your band and you made the connections that you kind of have in your career today? Am I right in saying that all these kind of people that are a part of your life now, and such a huge part of your life, I would assume, came from there. Is that?
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I think what was so unique about that experience was that every person who was there was like I would say a bigger fish from a smaller pond.
Yeah.
And so to just have all those people just like in one space and growing together and being humbled together and, finding a way to like navigate this crazy industry. Yeah, it bonds you in a way that's really unique, I think, has potential to. So, or not, some people, it wasn't for them and they left. So,
yeah. So the Hillary Reynolds band was formed, which you had kind of, it's no longer the Hillary Reynolds band, now called Peridot, which we'll talk about the changes and everything. But how did that come about? Who kind of planted the seed for that to kind of, for you guys to come together and say, right, let's actually do this, let's write the music, let's go out and play it and record it?
I think it emerged. It emerged just through actually just like throwing ideas at a wall and writing songs with my bandmate, who's still my bandmate, Trevor Jarvis. And I don't know, we just wrote a couple songs and entered them in a few competitions, and then they were selected as finalists or winners, and we decided, okay, maybe this is something. Admittedly, I think Hillary Reynolds Band was something that was just the easiest thing to call it. And and all the songs kind of came from me to a certain extent, and then it was like a collaboration with me always at the center of it. But yeah, I think it just happened pretty seamlessly over time. And I think as we sort of started to grow and it all of a sudden became like this 5-piece band and we were touring all over the place. It was definitely like a grassroots sort of movement from start to finish. It was a fun time.
Yeah. And did you feel like you got quite lucky quite quickly with being able to go out on the road and record this music, or did you feel like it was a real kind of a struggle almost, or like how did it kind of happen for you? Was there anyone in particular who kind of led the way for you? Or
honestly, it was just really grinding it out. And I think we made lemonade out of all of our lemons, that as much as we could. And I think also we were just so young and eager, and I think there was such a willingness to just like totally grind it out and drive like 9 hours a day sometimes, and just like physically be able to put up with that and play a show that same night. And I think that there was like this tolerance of just being able to totally sleep on the floor with like maybe a blanket, or stay in a really bad hotel or motel even, which there are plenty of stories regarding that, real gems. But I think then there were some, I think, really magical moments too, but it all came from just like doing the work. Yeah, just doing the work.
And did you find, obviously from going to kind of writing these songs with just Trevor and yourself mainly, and then having, as you said, like going from just the two of you to a 5-piece band, did you feel like you had to adjust majorly, or did it come quite naturally with the flow of the music and things?
Well, I think so. It was Trevor and I at first, and then this guitarist, his name's Ben Kopf, and so then it was the three of us. And in that, I think we just sort of really became this writing trio, and then we added a percussionist, and the bass player was the last component. And we kind of like worked our way up to having a 5-piece road band. and it was like, at first it was driving this Jetta across the country, it was just like a really old car and not safe probably. But we kind of graduated over time. I had this Chevy Traverse and we had a trailer, and it ended up being something that was like, okay, cool, you can see the progress being made, and all of us sort of like having our roles in managing all the tasks and stuff, and everybody just really put in the work, and it was such a cool, I've never been more proud of a time in my life than just like total DIY, like make it happen, make the magic happen, because nobody's gonna do it for you, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And so you had, like, you released quite a few albums and you had pretty good success with the band. What kind of changed in the fact that kind of made you go from the Hillary Reynolds band into Peridot, which you are now? Was there a major moment, or did it kind of progress naturally? Was it just something that needed to be done?
It was something that I could see coming. I think I grew like more I don't know, contemplative about just the origins of the songs and how it wasn't just me singing them, and it was really more of a duet, a face of a duet, and that I didn't feel like it was accurately depicting the sound anymore, and because the sound was evolving and changing, and I think that that's totally natural. And I think people, you know, were weaving in and out of the group, and the core as it was and is still is just me and Trevor, and I just wanted to do something that really, it wasn't a decision that I took lightly, but it was something that I knew needed to happen, and I really wanted the sound to reflect the name and the name to reflect the sound, and Peridot sort of really encompasses like where I think the sound is now, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, if you because in listening to the music, you hear so many kind of genres and influences and stylizings of the music, which is so great. But if you had to, I'm probably going to challenge you here, if you had to describe it, how would you describe it? Because it's so unique, and I'm listening to it, every song is different, and you could listen to one song and say this is a folk song, the other could be a pop song or country, and it really does go from everything, which I think is so great. But if you had to kind of hit the nail on the head and say this is the kind of music we record, what would you say?
Okay, well, first I would say that if you just like extracted the sounds as a whole, I think you can just tell that it's a songwriter writing all the songs. So I think that there is just like at the heart of it, the arrangements are what they are, but the core pieces of the songs are just like definitely driven by singer-songwriter. But I think I've settled. I feel like I've found a coziness in the Americana folk world, and I really think that that's what was really amazing about having a couple of records to just like explore all the palettes, except for like R&B and more urban stuff, which let's just spare everyone. But no, would not work. But I think that there is just this, like, I was given such a gift to explore like all these different sounds and really find where it fits for my voice. And as a songwriter, I can still access maybe more edgy, maybe more country, maybe more, I don't know, piano like pop ballads or pop music in general. But I think I've kind of come home to where I feel most compelled to tell a story is within the Americana folk realm. And I think my voice can just be its most honest self in that genre. So
yeah, definitely. And I think it's so hard though nowadays as well to kind of confine a song or an artist to a genre, because it's so wide now, you know. I mean, I see particularly like country, for example, you see so many debates, what is country nowadays? And I'm so with you on the fact, like, obviously we'll talk about, you've written for a country album and you're, you know, as you say, classed as Americana, but it goes both ways. And it, again, and probably, as you say, with, you know, excluding the R&B side of things, it really does, everything kind of just merges, and I think that's what makes it so great, though. So
and I honestly listened to the song Thank You by Dido, and then I realized, oh my gosh, then Eminem took like, you know, that first verse, and then imposed it, and like did, you know, it's just, and that was what, over 10 years ago. So it's always been happening. It's just that, like, you know, people and songs find each other, and it doesn't necessarily need to stay in one lane. It can really be a really cool thing when things come together.
Yeah, completely. And I think, you know, that's where the best songs come from, is the you know, collaborations and the mixes of it all. So you're in LA now, right? How long have you been in LA for? Because initially when you started up, you weren't there, were you, when you kind of were starting off the band? So how long have you been there for now?
I've been here for 3 years, over 3 years. I really like it. And it's so funny because growing up, I think the Midwest has a very interesting view on LA, like West Coast versus East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I my whole life I was like, oh, LA is a terrible city, and da da da, and I'll never live there. Like, I have no idea where that came from, to be honest. And then I came out here. We did a tour, actually, a few years ago, and it was the first time I really explored the city somewhat, and played shows and stuff. And I just remember being like, what? I love it here. Like, this is great. And I love it so much more than the East Coast, really. I think it just suits my personality a little more. I'm not as edgy and cutthroat as like the East Coast temperament can be. So yeah, it's good. I really like it.
Yeah. And was it a band decision to kind of put roots down there, or a personal one? Who kind of led you to do it?
I think it was actually a collective. It was like a collective decision. We all kind of arrived to our own individual decisions, but as a collective felt like it was the right move. It was something we were debating. I was debating for a long time, and knew that it was time to move. I knew that I was ready to leave Boston. And yeah, I think it just it happened seemingly, now looking back on it, pretty fast. As soon as we came out here and did a tour, it was kind of set. Like, it was like us testing the waters, and then all of a sudden it was like we couldn't stop thinking about it. And then my guitar player Martin, actually I think it was Trevor moved out first, and then a few months later was Martin, and then a few months later it was me. And so it was like this really cool integrated move where everybody arrived at different points, and, you know, but we all sort of found each other again, which is really good.
Did you feel a big change? Because obviously there is, as you've said, like the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast anyway, but kind of musically, did you feel a change? Did it change either when you were playing shows or writing, or was there anything that kind of flipped almost?
I think really what flipped, I mean, it's a huge culture shift in general, as you said, but between Boston and LA, my husband and I, we moved back to Wisconsin for a few months, and I organized this symphony. We had like a few of our songs arranged for a symphony.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like in Wisconsin making sure all that was buttoned up properly, because it's just a huge undertaking. And so we were kind of living in a cabin and working on charts and making sure it all came together. And then the guys flew in from California to my hometown, and we did the whole symphony concert. And then I moved out to LA, and I think it was even more of a shift because I had spent like, I want to say 5 months back in Wisconsin, and it's just real slow there. In a really good way, in a very like homey, woodsy way. But when we moved out to LA, first of all, it was like raining so much, and we were completely shocked by that. And it took a while to just sort of make it feel like home, because we literally moved, like I had my cat, and we had like 2 suitcases, and then all of our stuff was in a pod that was being shipped across the country. And we flew to LA and landed in the rain. And and it was like, and Trevor picked us up at the airport, and we literally had to drive to like a Target to get like toilet paper and drop off the cat and get a litter box. Like, it was like we literally moved with nothing. And so it took a while to just even adjust to that. But then I started to find my footing and teach. I taught a lot of voice lessons and piano lessons, and then, really just started to like understand how, songwriter community is formed here. And just, I felt like I could reconnect with a lot of old Berklee friends who live out in the city. And yeah, it was just like, I don't know, it was kind of a huge leap of faith, to be honest, at first, but it ended up working out.
Yeah, and obviously LA has a huge music scene, and obviously what we were just talking about with different genres. Literally, if you're going to find a million different genres, LA is where you go. Is there like a venue or a show that you played that really sticks out to you? Because obviously there's so many great venues and historical places that you can play in LA. Is there anywhere you've played and been like, yeah, this is kind of just confirmed it all for you that was where you were meant to be?
I think it was definitely, I mean, it's a venue in Hollywood. It's called Hotel Cafe, and it's just like kind of this, I would say, flagship singer-songwriter venue, but also a very like, the songwriting community really hangs out there. And it's really, really cool. And I feel very, very fortunate to have like kind of been tapped into that right from the get-go. And so many of my very, very dear friends are of that community. And I remember just like playing, I think when you just play to a full room anywhere, there's something really special about it. But there was something really significant about like, I don't know, feeling like, okay, yeah, we made the right decision. This is a good place. This is a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I always wonder, because obviously I talk to a lot of kind of Nashville songwriters and that, and they always say that as much as there's competition there, it kind of all more so feels like a community. Would you say it's the same in LA, or would you say that there is competition, there is kind of that everyone obviously has the same drive and the same goal a lot of the time? Or do you feel like it is really just a community of people, helping each other and supporting each other?
I think competition is so healthy, but I think really people also know where they're playing, and they know how to stay in their lane, and they also know, I don't know, they know how to just also be friends, and it's like all about the hang. And it's a lot of us like songwriters, we work with our friends, and so because that's usually how my best work comes out, is just from feeling like I can truly be myself. And I think with this quarantine craziness, I think it's been kind of game changing in how people are just like very stripped back and really having to get creative with their setup, their home rigs, and how, and like looking how to still stay in touch with one another and feel connected and write songs. I mean, I think everybody's just kind of at this point where we've surrendered to the new way of being, and a lot of it's over Zoom and FaceTime. So
Yeah.
that's just not going to change.
No, not anytime soon. I love it though, like as I was saying to you kind of before, I think it's such a great time, and obviously we would like to go back to normality, but finding these ways around things and discovering new things. And for me, I found I've just constantly had music on, which I do anyway, but instead of listening to the same artist that I've listened to for years, I'm finding new people and new songs. And I think times like this, it's such a great time to do that. Have you found, obviously, are you still writing a lot? Do you think, like, are you writing more or less? Because I suppose, are you lacking inspiration, not being able to go out? How is it, like, from a writer's perspective? Like, do you have writer's block, or are you kind of just dealing with it?
I guess I feel like I've had to come to sort of trust my own tendencies, and I'm a very like cyclical creature when it comes to, I'll just have like maybe a month of crazy productivity and I've got like maybe like 10 things in the pipeline and I'm just like all over the place. But then I'll have like in quarantine, I guess it's just like, then I'm like, oh, there's like a period of 2 weeks where I just am like, everything shut off. Like the creative spout is just off. And I'm learning to trust that that's okay, because I think that there's a lot to process in this time too. And I think that it's just when I feel that like, oh, it's maybe a sense of overwhelm and maybe there's something to address, and I'm just learning to trust that that's like all okay. And that in the times when it's like kind of dead in the water, it's okay to just like go inward and kind of maybe just phone a friend and have a deeper conversation and not just be so focused on chasing the song.
Yeah, definitely. So you're talking of writing and new music. So you guys last released Fleeting, which was your single last year. Is there new music in the pipeline? Can you tell us anything?
Well, I mean, we have some songs that have like, I guess, been, they were put on the back burner for a while, but we've been digging back into them. We have this, like a few songs. We did like another symphony concert last year, but it was a recording concert. So we did everything live, and it was recorded. And I just actually yesterday got back a mix of that, one of the songs. And it's, I don't know, I'm kind of like debating, going back and forth, if it's the right time to release anything of that nature yet, just because I don't want to rush anything and I don't want to just put something out to put it out. But I do have a song that I've worked that came to me, I think day 2 of quarantine, and I'm gonna actually put it out myself, and it's gonna feature just a video as well. It's gonna be kind of like an in tandem thing. It's called What Faith Is, and it's something that I just really feel like is medicine for me, and it's like, oh well, maybe this could be helpful for others too. Just with everything that's feeling so uncertain, and everybody's sort of grabbing at straws at this point, and everybody wants things to open up, but then everybody's seeing that doing that maybe isn't the best thing. And so I don't know, it's just hard, and I wanted to create something that would maybe bring a little bit of, you know, not joy, but just maybe a little bit of peace and, you know, light into everything.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you should release it. I'm not going to tell you not to.
I'll play for you. How's that? I'll play that for you. Yeah.
Yes. Shall we? Do you want to have a play it now, and then we can go back to some questions?
Sure.
If that suits you. Yeah. Awesome. Right.
Yeah.
I'll pop you. It's a nice.
Let's see how it works. Okay. I don't have the answers, and I won't pretend to know. Don't know how we got here, but it's where we are right now. It's all so overwhelming when we can't see the light. I panic in the darkness, 'cause there's no end in sight. Then maybe a prayer slips out. Maybe your name falls out of my mouth, and there's no other way to face it. Oh, I guess this is what faith is. I'm always one to worry, feel the fear closing in. When it feels like I'm drowning, I swear I'm doing the best I can. 'Cause it's all so overwhelming, 'cause there's no end in sight. Then maybe a prayer slips out. Maybe your name falls out of my mouth, and there's no other way to face it. Oh, I guess this is what faith is. Ooh, ooh, oh, I surrender it all. Ooh, maybe a prayer slips out. Maybe your name falls out of my mouth, and there's no other way to face it. I believe we'll find a way through this, even when there's nothing to prove it. Oh, I guess this is what faith is.
That was great. Thank you so much. That was lovely, and it's very relatable. I see where you're coming from. Hopefully, that definitely, I think a lot of people will find some peace, as you said, from that. So thank you so much. Do we know when it will be available, or is it all?
It's the video is being worked on right now, and it's basically a frontline workers video, and it's a lot of footage from all over the country, really, that's been collected on behalf of friends and family and other people who just want to share their story, and mask makers, like people who are at home making masks, and it's kind of a beautiful thing, and it's people lighting candles for grocery store workers, and I mean, everybody's got their own little way of adding a little bit of hope, and
Yeah.
I'll let you know when it's ready. It's not ready yet, though.
No, I think it's a great idea, and as I said, I think it's what we all need. And to have a video that's kind of as poignant as that is a great idea. So I'm sure a lot of people will be with me by saying thank you for singing it and letting me sing it. We're coming to the end of the interview, but I cannot let you go without talking about something that pretty cool happened earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, actually happened a few years ago. So
Yes.
Little Big Town's 9th studio album came out in January. The opening track you got to co-write, which is called Next to You. It is, if you haven't heard it, it's one of the best tracks on the album. I know from every kind of review, fan rating, so many people have said that. It's the opening song of their tour that was, and hopefully to come. Tell me the story. I want to. Well, I could talk about the song all day, but we don't have all day. So it's my understanding that it kind of was written a few years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. It was just written with Mike Algedeff, or Michael Jade, he goes by, I guess. Sorry, Mike. Mike Jade, and then Trevor Jarvis again. We all went to Berklee together, and I think when Trevor and I moved out here, we were just trying to find our footing, and like I said, we were reconnecting with old friends and people who've made LA their home. And I think we just like met at a diner and had breakfast, and he just invited us to come over, and we wrote a song that was that song. And I think the whole story of that song is magical, because we really just wrote it, out of the joy of each other's company. And I think that's really rare, to be able to write something like that with some of your best friends and have it do what it's doing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And how did it find its way to Little Big Town?
It was kind of again, I guess, just like a very magical thing. But we wrote it, and then Mike, I think, sent it to his team, and his team just directly sent it to the band, and the band was like, yep, that's ours. And then it was kind of just in their possession for a couple years, and we had like, not really any clue really what was going on. And so we just kind of kept in the dark, and then all of a sudden a couple years later, we're just like, it was like, oh, here it is, and here's a whole record that kind of also came along with that. So it's crazy. It's kind of
yeah crazy. And it's strange. I mean, when I first heard the song, you would think not only does it sound so perfect for them and their voices but also the entire record, it fitted so perfectly. It was if it was written for them. So I just found the whole, like, the fact that it was just kind of, casually wrote it, and then it kind of, I don't know, obviously from their perspective, how it formed the record, but it almost did seem like it kind of was like the base of it. Does that, hearing it and hearing like the rest of the record, how is it for you, like as a songwriter, to see how it's kind of gone from like paper to some of the biggest stages in the world with them?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while. I mean, it's kind of amazing, right? And we were really, really fortunate back in, I forget when the Grammys were. I think they were in February.
Yeah, beginning of Feb. Yeah.
Feb. What is time these days?
Yeah.
But, in the beginning of February, they were here for the Grammys, but they also did like this Live Nation, or no, iHeartRadio was an iHeartRadio event, and we got to go to the event because we hadn't met them, and on the record, I think we might be like we were like the only writers that they hadn't known or met. So it was kind of like this crazy buildup of like, oh my gosh. And yeah, so we got to like briefly meet them, and they were just they're the sweetest people. They're just like incredible human beings. I don't know what else to say about them. I felt like we were just saying hi to old friends. And I think that one of like a pinch me moment was really on stage when they introduced that song in particular. They like they called out to us, and the whole room kind of looked at us, and it was kind of just one of those moments where I kind of like slapped Trevor next to me, like, oh my God, what is going on right now? And then hearing it actually live, I think that's when it kind of all hit that it was all real. Because it just felt like, I mean, as hard as it is to like go through the journey of creating a song and having it get to an artist, and then having that artist actually make it their own, like being on the other end of it is just kind of like incredible, because I now see that it was always their song.
And it's I can't imagine, I mean, hearing it live must have been so amazing, because even, I mean, they performed it on the Late Show with Seth Meyers, but they also did it for the I don't know if you saw it, the ACMs at home. And for them literally to be 4 people in separate, almost, obviously Karen and Jim are in the same house, but separate houses, and for it to still have such an effect, you must be kind of like still like a pinch me, because the song is just, it's such a, you're so right with the word, it's such a magical song. And that's why I kind of say how it links so well with Nightfall, with the entire record. Did you, when you first wrote it, did you kind of think, yeah, this is going to sound amazing, and did you picture how it could sound, or was it just another song?
It was definitely another song for me, but it was one that obviously I really liked. But it was such a crafted, magical like moment where, like I said, we were just 3 friends getting together to write a song. And I have a vivid memory of like sitting with like a little flask of whiskey, and I was wearing a t-shirt that is so lame. It was just like, and it says like, music is my only friend. And I just remember like,
I need that.
That's where that song was born. So
amazing. Well, it's come a long way, but a good way. It's, as I said, it's such an incredible song, and I think it's testament that it opens the record, but it also opens the tour. On the kind of the dates. I know they, from watching kind of interviews, they said that they were going to mix up the set list and things, but the fact that every night it opened, and it's such an opening song, you know, when you hear it back.
And on the demo that we did of it, so much of it's the same, and that's what's I think is really cool. But what I remember like having this aha moment, like yes kind of fist pumping moment, when we first sat down and listened through it, which was when it was released. Like, we didn't hear it until it was released, and we had been living with this demo, you know, for a couple years, and at the end of it, where it's like a really a big build up, awesome outro, in the demo it was just like tracked like MIDI drums, and it was like not huge. It was like you had to you could envision it, but it was not in the recording. And I just remember hearing like and feeling for the first time the drummer Hubert, he's awesome, Hubert Payne, like actually laying in, and it just sounded so massive, and it was like this finally like, oh my gosh, this moment where it was explosive and powerful, and you could really finally sink your teeth into it, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm excited to see it live and like sing along to it, because it has that as well. You just kind of want to, like, you want to get into it. And I mean, they're amazing live anyhow, but I think this record for them is one for the books with when it comes to touring. So very lucky to, yeah.
Do you have another favorite song off that record? Because I have one that I really like
Of
too.
Nightfall.
Which one?
Of Nightfall.
Yes.
Alongside Next to You, because I do love it. My second favorite is Questions.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, I think, and The Daughters as well. But it just, if I keep going on, I'll say every song.
I know. I personally, I feel like it is one of those records where it's like, if depending on the time of day, I'll give you a different answer for my favorite.
Definitely.
Because like this morning felt like such a Bluebird morning, you know, and just makes you feel really good.
There's is there another song on the record, like, we just talk, I mean, I honestly could talk about Little Big Town all day, that you kind of heard and you thought, oh, I wish I'd written that?
Trouble with Forever, for sure. Yeah, that one really cuts deep. I'm always gonna like fall for the heart melting moments on a record, and to me, like, I'm never usually picking the one that's like going to radio or anything. Like I just like the ones that really make me kind of sit back and like really listen, as opposed to just like driving around and, you know, look. I mean, that's like a different feeling, you know. It's a different purpose. I have a lot of respect for things that you can just put on the radio and just like go. But I also, when I'm just sitting down to listen to a record, like, you know, Simon and Garfunkel, just listening to like their greatest hits record and just listening to Bridge Over Troubled Water, like that song will always, like, no matter where I am in the house, I'll just like have a moment where I'll sit and I'll be like, God, that song is amazing, you know. And I think that song Trouble with Forever does the same thing to me.
That is a heartbreaker, that one. I find with that song, I think of someone different every time I hear it, which I don't know if, so like I'll think of, you know, someone that's passed away, or someone that's gotten divorced, or like two people that were like, it just, and that's what I it's a song. So,
yeah, and there's a lot of power behind it.
Definitely. So we are going to have another song from you, if that's okay. But first, I'm going to ask you three questions, which I ask everyone. So my first question, I kind of just asked you this, but in a smaller way. But 3 songs, any songs that you wish you'd written.
Oh my gosh. So that's loaded. That is so loaded.
And the answers are endless.
I know. It's really true. I think Heart of Gold by Neil Young. That song, I think that song has like just this, like, it takes me to like a campfire, but it also can take me to a bar, and I can like listen to, I feel like it's such a companion song, like a life companion song.
Yeah.
It also makes me feel like super nostalgic too, which is so interesting. Like I feel like rarely do songs do all of that. Let's see, I think You Can Close Your Eyes by James Taylor. That song is, if you haven't heard it, like one of the most magical songs ever, and it's like, I don't know, it's like this kindred spirit song that again is like a life companion. Maybe that's like the theme. It's just like something that you can listen to like every 10 years, and it just carries more and more with it over time. Because I feel like the first time I heard that song, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna learn this song. But then, like, 20 years later, here I am, and now I'm like, I think of all these really beautiful moments with it that have been painful but also beautiful. And then I would have to say God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, and Brian Wilson, I should say. That song destroys me, and it's like the most beautiful. It's so creative, it's so beautiful. It's like the round at the end, I could listen to that, like it's like something I just never get tired of. The harmony is genius and so thoughtful and like so complex, and yet it's just, the melody's so simple. I don't know, I just love it. It's amazing.
They are good choices, and all very different, which I love. There's not right. My second question is, if you could never write a song again or never sing on stage again, which one would you pick?
I think sing on stage, because I think I just am like, I'm the most lit up when and it sounds so dumb, but if like I go back to like being that little girl on the playground with her notebook, it's like this really, really profound joy that I only get from cracking a song. And I feel like that is the most like magical thing that I experience, and it just feels like so personal and so deeply mine, and also like, I don't know, and it's so weird because it's mostly always just like me or maybe two other people in a room, and it's like the happiest thing. It's like euphoric to feel that. And I'm sure most people can also have that experience on stage, but for me it's rare.
Yeah, well, everyone I've spoken to so far has said like they'd have to still write, not sing on stage. So I'm with you there. And then talking of songwriters, 3 people who you haven't written with but you'd love to.
Ooh, I definitely think Lori McKenna, for sure.
Yeah.
Laura Veltz, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
I haven't pronounced it. I've always just seen it and treasured all of her writing as well. And I think Steph Jones would be another. She's like, I would say we're like of the same generation, so it'd be really cool to write with somebody who's in that space. And Julia Michaels. Yes, she's the queen of songwriting at the moment, like the last few years.
It's funny you say Lori McKenna though, because funnily enough, talking of Trouble with Forever, in the clip that Little Big Town uploaded a couple of weeks ago of their like fireside chat, they talk about Trouble with Forever, and they say Lori McKenna heard it and was like, damn, why didn't I think of that? So it's interesting that like that's your favorite song as well. We can make it happen. Little Big Town know her. There you go. There's your in. She's awesome. She's so awesome. Yeah. Another person who I could talk about all day.
I know.
Is, all of them are amazing though. So we have to unfortunately come to the end of our chat, which is such a shame because I really seriously could stay here and speak for ages. But I just want to say, I know you're gonna sing us out, but thank you so much for being a part of it, and it's been great, and I hope you guys stay safe and take care, and hopefully we'll be back to normal soon.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to keep on keeping on, and I'm really grateful for you to just, find me and for us to have this chat. It's so wonderful. And I really I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm just like, I'm grateful that people like you are just seizing this moment to sort of create a platform for other people to share their voices. And I think that that's just, one of the silver linings of this time. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Right, I will pop you on full screen to sing us out, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Well, I was kind of in a mood. Now I'm like questioning whether or not I should put this. We're in such a good place, but this song is like not that, but whatever. I wrote this song like a couple weeks ago with this writer in LA over Zoom. So this is like another quarantine ditty. And it's called This Is Good. So, and I'm pulling up the lyrics because I don't know it very well yet. Okay. If lying to others is a sin, it's lying to yourself another means to an end. 'Cause I keep trying to hold on to this, turning my cheek every time you hurt me. I throw out all the red flags, but they'll find ways to come back. I'm not ready to give you up, 'cause once I said there's no going back, can't hold on to the love that we had. I'll stay a little longer still. Let's keep on dancing, keep playing pretend, 'cause I'm not ready to let go yet, even though I should keep saying this is good. Keep saying this is good. Close enough to touch me, but you don't. And I'd rather stay in bed with you than fall asleep alone. But this old house will feel so empty with you gone. You're the last thing I need to go wrong. So I'll throw out all the red flags, but they'll find ways to come back. I'm not ready to give you up, 'cause once I said there's no going back, we can't hold on to the love that we had. I'll stay a little longer still. Let's keep on dancing, keep playing pretend, 'cause I'm not ready to let go yet, even though I should keep saying this is good. Oh, oh, keep saying this is good. Yeah, keep saying this is good. This is good. Keep saying this is good. This is good. 'Cause once we say there's no going back, we can't hold on to the love that we had. I'll stay a little longer still. Let's keep on dancing, keep playing pretend, 'cause I'm not ready to let go yet, even though we should. Oh, even though I should. I'll keep saying this is good. Keep saying this is good.